Now, if y'all know me, y'all know that my all-time favorite console is the Wii. I went into detail about why it's my favorite console more times than I can remember, so just know that I have nothing but love for the Wii. Almost everyone has that memory of the first time they got a Wii, or maybe even the first time they made their very first Mii of themselves, or maybe the first time they ever played Wii Sports. But let's bring it back to the Mii making. These little in-gaming humans have been around since 2006 and have been a pretty important part in Nintendo's history. They've starred in numerous iconic Nintendo games, but when the Switch's lifetime started out, they were kind of shelved. There's only a handful of games where the Miis are in, and other than Miitopia, they aren't the star of the game itself, which is possibly why the Wii Sports Revival Nintendo Switch Sports didn't do too well. The Miis were included, but they weren't the main focus. So what questions am I trying to ask? Well, for one, why did Nintendo phase out the Miis? Does Miis have a future in Nintendo's consoles? Both questions will be answered in today's video. But first, I feel like we can't look at their future without looking at their history. You may think the Miis were first thought of when the Wii started development, but you'd be wrong. Or they were at least thought of when the GameCube was still in its lifetime. Nope. N64? Still no. They were actually first brought up way back in the NES/Famicom era, 20 years before they made their official debut. In fact, they were completely different from what we know today. Back in the late 80s, a prototype game was built by Shigeru Miyamoto for the Famicom, which had the player create their own character. It had all kinds of eye types, face shapes, mouth types. It was literally just like the Mii Maker we know today. But unfortunately, this was scrapped before it made it out to the public due to the fact that Miyamoto and the rest of the developers working on this didn't know how it could be a proper game, or at least how to turn it into a game. And there's no point to the game. So this personal avatar idea was scrapped and wouldn't come back up into the Nintendo 64 era. Back in 1999, Nintendo released the Japan-only N64DD, which is short for disk drive, and this personal avatar idea came up again. With the release of Mario Artist Talent Studio, the game had an avatar maker where you could dress up and customize your very own avatar, and then use these avatars in movies you could produce on the game. You can even make use of the Game Boy camera along with the 64DD's capture cassette, and put your own face on the avatar, which I can't lie, for something that came out in the 90s, that is really cool. This avatar maker was similar to the prototype we saw during the Famicom era, and obviously very similar to the Mii Maker we know now. But as we all probably know, the 64DD was a commercial failure, which ultimately means this game didn't do too well, and it's probably why both the game and the console was never released anywhere else outside of Japan. But that doesn't mean the idea can be used again and turned into something else. Now we are in the GameCube era, and this personal avatar idea is still floating around. So kind of taking the idea from Mario Artist, a game called Stage Debut was being developed for the GameCube, and it would have the player once again use the Game Boy camera. But this time it was going to use this kind of Game Boy camera spin-off called the Game Eye. Nothing is really known about the Game Eye, but apparently it was going to be used just like the Game Boy camera. Anyways, with the Game Eye, you will be able to take a picture using that and import the pictures to the game with the GBA's link cable, and boom, you will have your own avatar with your own face on it, similar to the Mario Artist game. In Stage Debut, you would use your avatar to dance and interact with characters from the Mario series, the Animal Crossing series, and the Pikmin series, along with the use of cards related to said series, using the GBA's e-reader. The game was publicly shown at E3 2003, but after that, the game was literally never seen or heard of again as it was quietly cancelled. There could be a couple of reasons why this game got cancelled. One, for the same reason the Famicom demo got cancelled. There's not really a point to this game and there's no way of turning it into a real game. Two, this GB camera spin-off, the Game Eye, was scrapped and never released, which meant there was no point of releasing Stage Debut when the main thing that it needs is not available. Or three, this game just looked very creepy and very much like a YTP or something, because there's no way this game is real. But long story short, the game was scrapped and the personal avatar idea is still floating around. The time has come for the Wii to start entering development. So while Nintendo EAD were developing the Wii, another division of Nintendo, Nintendo SPD, was working on yet another personal avatar thing for the Nintendo DS. This time they wanted to base these avatars off of Japanese dolls called Kokishi. I mean, by the look of this screenshot of the DS avatar maker, it looks pretty familiar, right? So the team behind Nintendo SPD showed this to the then Nintendo CEO and President Satoru Iwata, who then showed it to Shigeru Miyamoto. With the association of Iwata and Miyamoto, this avatar maker was now going to be ported to the Wii, and that is exactly how the famous Miis came to be. They were eventually kind of like the mascot of the Wii, starring in iconic games like Wii Sports, Wii Fit, Wii Play, just to name a few. They can also be played in Mario Kart Wii, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Mario Party 8, just to name a few. They went on to become an iconic part in the Wii history, and ultimately an iconic part in Nintendo history. And the Wii U era was no different. feel like Nintendo even stepped it up with the Miis, including them in way more games. And not even with games, their home menu is filled to the brim with groups of Miis, and when Miiverse was still around, those Miis actually belonged to people and would be able to share their thoughts on a specific game, which I always thought was so cool. And then of course, Smash Wii U and 3DS was the first Smash game to include Mii characters as playable characters. New Super Mario Bros. U was also the first 2D Mario game to introduce the Miis as playable characters. The Wii U literally bumped up the Mii status if anything. It was too bad that it failed though. And after the unfortunate failure of the Wii U, which didn't deserve this failure by the way, along came the way more successful Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch does indeed have a Mii Maker, but I feel like it kinda got shelved here. It's stored all the way down in the system settings. I mean, I feel like it could have been its own app, considering it was on its own for the Wii and the Wii U. And along with the games that include Miis, there's only a few. In fact, there are no games on the Switch that stars just the Miis, other than Miitopia, and that's even a remaster of a 3DS game. There's literally a Wii Sports revival game on the Switch, Nintendo Switch Sports, and while you can play as Miis, the main focus is instead Sportsmates, which are these new avatars. So now let's get to the question, why did Nintendo phase out the Miis? I heard a belief that they phased them out because of the failure of the Wii U. I guess they thought since the Wii U failed they had to push the Miis back from the center of attention. A lot of people think that Nintendo has outgrown the Miis too, like the games they put out are too serious to have the Miis in. While I do believe them about Nintendo outgrowing the Miis, I don't believe it's because these games are too serious for them. I mean, I like to think Smash Ultimate is a very serious game and Miis are playable there, so I just don't get it. Another reason people believe is that there's just not a place for them right now. Nintendo is just focusing on building first party games where the Miis just don't belong. There could be multiple reasons why Nintendo is phasing out the Miis, so the answer to the question why is Nintendo phasing out the Miis is really undecided, but the answer that makes the most sense would be that there is really no place for them. Nintendo is focusing on bigger and better things, especially with developing the successor to the Switch, and speaking of this new console brings me to my next question, does Miis have a future in Nintendo's console? The Miis have been with us since 2006, but they slowly started to fade out of the Nintendo image. So with this new console on the way, will the Miis be involved at all? Will there even be a Mii Maker on this new console? My hope is that yes, there will be Miis on the next console, and yes, the Miis will be way more included with this console than they were in the Switch's lifetime. In reality though, the Miis just might be shelved again. With the way this new console is sounding, it looks like Nintendo's going to try hard to compete with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, so they're probably going to go for a more serious and more mature nature. While they're still going to be the same silly, family-friendly Nintendo we always knew, it's going to be more grown up this time around, like the Xbox and the PlayStation, meaning Miis probably aren't going to be a big part of the console like the Switch. But just because they aren't going to be a main focus doesn't mean we can't get games focused on them, or at least games that include them. And maybe instead of hiding Miis away in the system settings, maybe they finally have their own app back on the home screen. I personally just want Miis to get a little spotlight for this next console, because with the Switch, let's just say I just don't know. You guys remember that scene from Toy Story 2 where the penguin was shelved? That's how I feel Nintendo did with the Miis in the Switch. But to answer this question truthfully, does Miis have a future in Nintendo's consoles? The answer might just be yes, but not fully. But I hope I'm wrong because I really do want the Miis to make a major comeback. I think I'm gonna call it there, guys. Hey, comment down below if you want the Miis to make a major comeback in Nintendo's next console, or if they should shelve them again, or even worse, make them disappear into nothing. I do read the comments, by the way. If you like what you saw, please hit that subscribe button. It'll really help me out. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.